It may not look like it just sitting here, but this is the fastest Volvo ever made, and it's all electric. What's up, folks? I'm Dave Undercoffler, editor-in-chief of Autolist, a sister company to CarGurus. Volvo has gone and done something, well, very un-Volvo. It's made a quick car. This is the first ever EX30. It's a subcompact, all-electric crossover that goes up against a range of EVs, including the Hyundai Ioniq 5, Kia EV6 and Niro, and yes, the Tesla Model Y. So how does this newcomer stack up against those more established rivals? Let's go spend some time with this and find out. But before we do, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you can get alerts on all of our future updates. All right, let's start by taking a look at the exterior of this EX30. A couple of notes on pricing. The base model, which is called the Plus, starts at about $46,000. We're testing the Ultra. This is about $48,000. But regardless of which of those two you choose, they're both gonna look largely the same. And that's a good thing in my book. I think this is a really sleek, compact crossover. I like what Volvo has done. Up front, you've got these really cool headlights. They have different lighting patterns depending on different situations. The rest of the car definitely says EV and Volvo at the same time. It's a nice combination of the two. You've got the massive Volvo logo up front. This color, not quite my favorite. It's called moss yellow. That's kind of a weird name for a color this bright, but imagine it in a different color and I think you have a very attractive compact crossover. Moving to the side, this is where you get a great view of the car's proportions. I really like how Volvo has set it up. It's a very athletic looking car. You've got very small overhangs in front of or behind the wheels. These are 19-inch alloy wheels. You can get 20s if that's what you want. But overall, yeah, I just love sort of the sporty, compact nature of it, and it is compact. For comparison, a Tesla Model Y, which pricing-wise is about the same, a Model Y is going to be about 2 feet longer than this car. This is actually shorter and lower than Kia's Niro EV, and that's a pretty small car itself. So just for context, despite this going up to $48,000, it's a pretty small car. We'll get into some more of the drawbacks about that a little bit later when we crawl inside. And then finally at the back, again, really sleek look. I like this. It's individual, looks different, but without being too weird. I think this is a design that's going to age really well. It also looks kind of like the Volvo EX90. That's the full-size 3-row all-electric crossover, so there's a bit of a family resemblance going on there. Overall, I think Volvo did a really nice job designing this car. All right, now let's talk power. And as I mentioned earlier, this car has a lot of it. It will do 0 to 60 in 3.3 to 3.4 seconds. That is supercar fast. So how does it do that? Well, it has all-wheel drive and 422 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. That is pretty remarkable for a car that is this small. Now, this is a dual-motor all-wheel drive setup. That's the only version of the EX30 you can get right now. Now, there is a single-motor EX30 sold in other markets, but there's no word from Volvo on when or if it's going to bring that cheaper version to the US. Now, before we get to charging, while we have the hood open, let's just address the elephant in the room. Does it have a frunk? That's what people always want to know about EVs. The answer is kind of. It's more like a frunklet, right? A very small frunk. Maybe you could put a lunchbox in there. It is storage of some kind, but really don't count on putting too many things up here. All right, now to charging. Now, the first thing you're going to want to know is that no, this EX30 has not adopted Tesla's NACS style of charger. So that's just something to consider, as many other automakers across the industry are starting to do that. This has more of the old school CCS setup. It has a 69 kilowatt hour battery. Volvo says it can DC fast charge from 10 to 80% in about 27 minutes. That's pretty cool. Now, what's not cool is the range. The EPA says that this car has 253 miles of range, but multiple times while we have had it, we've charged it to 100%, and it's only showing about 205 to 210 miles of range. That is not good for a couple of reasons. Many of its competitors are going to have much higher real-world range, and in 2025, a car that costs up to $48,000 just needs more miles than this Volvo offers. All right, now to the interior of the EX30, and this is where the experience starts to fall apart a little bit. The first problem is it's too hard to get inside the car. This is the key fob, and it may look like a normal key fob, but there are no buttons on it. Now, that may sound more simple or more elegant. In reality, it's a pain in the butt. A couple of things. For one, if your partner or spouse is going out to the car and asks you to open the trunk for them, you can't do that. There's no way to open the trunk from this. You have to go up to the trunk and hit the button, or you have to do it while you're already in the car. That's annoying. The door handles, only this handle has a proximity sensor. So if you go up to this car while it is locked with this in your pocket, if you go up to any of the other doors, those doors will not unlock. You have to come around and unlock it manually. That is a very frustrating experience. I don't know why Volvo just didn't put simple buttons on it. So that's the first downside. And then once you get in the car, there are some other things that are really troubling. The other big issues I have with this car stem from this screen. Now, if you look across the cabin, this is the only screen. There's no display for the driver or anywhere else in this cabin. This is very much a Tesla style setup. Volvo definitely copied them here. Except this screen is only 12.3 inches, so it's pretty small relative to what's in the new Tesla Model Y. And it's also very poorly designed. Let me give you an example. The three most common functions you're gonna use any screen or buttons for are the volume, the fan speed, and the temperature. You have to go to three different places in this screen to access those, and they're way too complicated to get to. A well-designed screen, and many other models today, will have it sort of anchored down below at the bottom of this screen, those functions that I mentioned. So you're not hitting extra buttons to find them. Let me walk you through the three on this Volvo. For volume, it's down here. You got a little pop-up and then a slider bar. If you wanna go to temperature, you hit this, and then there's a pop-up down here with two different temperature controls. The fan speed is on a different screen. You have to hit a different button and then use this slider up here. That may not sound like a lot, but if you are driving this car on a daily basis, as we have, to go through those three different menus to find very simple and common functions is way too frustrating. And what's most frustrating is that there is a driver attention monitoring system, and it's constantly giving you warnings of like, hey, your eyes are off the road. Well, yes, my eyes are off the road because this system is poorly designed. It's not allowing me to easily do what I want to do. That gets into a safety issue. Volvos have always been among the safest cars on the road. That's part of their entire corporate ethos, is being the safest. Well, it is not safe if I am continually taking my eyes off the road to do these very common functions. Overall, that's a very frustrating experience. Now, there are two caveats to my frustrations. One is that this does have Google built in. So I can say, hey Google, turn the temperature to 63 degrees. And it does it very easily. It's very responsive to your commands. It understands different ways to ask things. So that's helpful. The other caveat is that Volvo could use over-the-air updates while you own this car to refine this experience and make it more intuitive. I really hope they do, but as it sits today, some of these are big enough deal breakers that I just couldn't recommend the car. And then there's the rest of the screen. As you can see, we have Google Maps as the navigation system. That's standard and built in. This offers wireless Apple CarPlay, but it does not come with wireless Android Auto. So that's a bit of an oddity. You can log into your Google account and it will pull all of that up into Google Maps. Up here is where you have sort of the standard display of items that might be in front of you, right? So when I'm in park, it's gonna show park. You put it into drive and then it will show your speed. It's got your range, the battery charge status, whether there are any doors open, things like that. And then another frustration is very simple controls that you'd think would be in buttons throughout the car are then buried in menus here. That includes adjusting the headlights. That includes adjusting the mirrors, trying to find the rear hatch opening. The glove box, oddly, is right there. I don't know what's wrong with putting it there, but here it's smaller. It hits everybody's knees when it opens. So that's a bit of an oddity. To change the light setting, you know, it's on auto right now. If I just want it on, I have to hit that button and then confirm it on the steering wheel. Again, too many steps to do very simple functions. Another element like that is the window switches. They're not on the doors. There also aren't speakers on the doors. Instead, window switches are here. There's one for either side. And then to activate the rear, I have to hit this touch-sensitive panel, which is really hard to do when I've got two little kids screaming at me in the back. Trust me, I did that this week. And then that activates these two buttons for the rear windows. That's a setup that Volkswagen has in some of its vehicles. It drives me nuts. Just give me 4 buttons. And then there's the speaker up front. This is a Harman Kardon speaker, like a sound bar that maybe you'd have for your TV. It sounds really good. I have to hand it to Volvo. I like that sound. Some other things I like, if you look around the cabin, the materials they chose are really kind of cool. This is a different sort of style, a little more modern without being too weird. These seats are really comfortable and I love the fabric that they've got on these seats. It's not leather, it's this sort of stitched cloth. It's a nice touch. Visibility is quite remarkable out the front. You don't have the driver display in front of you, so it feels like you've got a lot of visibility, a lot of windshield to look out of. That's pretty cool. And then this panoramic roof, although it can make the cabin a little hot, it does open it up. Like I said, this is a very small car. It's a small, compact cabin. So to have this let in a lot of sunlight is a nice touch. Another nice thing is there are lots of storage options throughout this cabin. Down below, we have wireless smartphone charging pad, and I like how it sort of sits your phone up. And then under here, you've got storage. You could put maybe a purse or a larger bag. And then this floor sort of opens up, maybe to make it a little deeper. And then down below that are 2 USB-C charge ports. You do have some cup holders hiding right here. This whole thing slides out. You've got a pair of cup holders. The top can then slide away if you want to put something larger. That's pretty cool. This also will just slide back to 1 if you have just 1 cup, and then slides fully out of the way. There is no storage in here. It looks like there should be. It's a nice armrest to have, but yeah, no storage underneath. All right, now to the rear seats. And as we mentioned earlier, when we showed you the entire dimensions of this car, it's small, and you really feel that in the rear seats. I'm 6'1". I've got the front seat adjusted to where I would have it if I were sitting up there. So basically I'm sitting behind myself. I'm really cramped back here, right? The good thing is these seat backs are nice and padded because my knees are absolutely pressing into them. There's a little bit of room for my feet, but yeah, this is a very tidy car. And to give you a perspective of how small it is, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, which is in the general price range as this EX30, the Ioniq 5 has 7 inches more of legroom than this Volvo. Even the Mini Countryman EV, which is not big by itself, that has 3 inches more of legroom. So if you are interested in this Volvo, just know it's gonna be tight for tall adults in the back seats. 2 other complaints I have about the rear seats, and these are smaller, admittedly, but there are no air vents for the rear passengers. Now, yes, it's a small vehicle, so it's gonna heat up or cool down quickly, but it would be nice, especially with this big glass panoramic roof, letting in all the sunlight, heating the cabin up in the summer. It'd be nice to have some air vents. Another thing, there's no armrest, right? You'd expect Volvos to have a nice, comfortable armrest back here. A little bit of a miss that they don't have one. You do have a few amenities back here. I've got a reading light up here, and then down below you have some nice storage here. This actually pulls out entirely, this little storage bin, and you've got more storage down there, and that actually passes through up to the front passengers. So that's a little bit of usefulness. I like that. And then we've got a pair of USB-C charge ports down here and a place to put your smartphone. All right, finally to cargo space. And as you might imagine, in a vehicle this small, it's pretty tight back here. You've got about 11 cubic feet of space with the rear seats folded up. To put that into context, the Mini Countryman EV has more than double the space with the seats up. So definitely pretty tight back here. These seats do fold flat. They're split 60-40 and do fold completely flat. When they are down, you have about 32 cubic feet of space. Now, the one saving grace is that this floor actually has more cargo space down below. That's a great place to put your charging cables, but still, overall, this is a compact car. All right, next up, driving impressions, and this is where the EX30 goes a long way in redeeming itself. This thing is a pocket rocket. 3.3 seconds, 0 to 60, that's insane. That's Porsche 911 territory. This thing is absolutely a riot to drive. I love that acceleration, 422 horsepower. So that's probably one of the biggest strong suits of this EX30 is it's just gonna blow the doors off almost anything else on the road. I'm really enjoying that. And then there's the handling. The handling doesn't quite match the performance of the acceleration. The car handles perfectly fine, but it's not gonna feel like a sports car when you start to go around turns. The steering is pretty communicative. There are 3 different modes, sort of 3 different strengths you can have the steering in. I actually have it in the stiffest setting, and that itself actually feels almost too light. I would probably have that be more the normal setting. I do like that you can adjust it, but what you can't adjust is the level of regenerative braking. Now, many EVs today have paddles behind the steering wheel or buttons or a setting somewhere where you can adjust the levels of regenerative braking, and that's really nice. This EX30 only allows you to turn on or off the one-pedal driving. That's what they call it, one-pedal driving. But after driving many other EVs, this is not one-pedal driving. This is surprisingly light. It doesn't slow the car down in the way that you would expect if you've driven other EVs. So if you are coming out of another EV and getting into this, it's gonna feel a little unfamiliar. It's almost as if the folks at Volvo haven't driven any other EVs recently because this just doesn't match true one-pedal driving, and that's pretty frustrating. Another thing I love about driving this EX30 is just how serene it is on the road. Now, look, all EVs are a serene experience. They're very smooth, they're very quiet, but this one goes above and beyond almost any other EV I've driven recently. On the freeway, on rough city streets, on normal surface streets like this, it does it so nicely, it's so smooth. I really have to hand it to Volvo in that regard. It's a great driving experience. I love that. Another highlight of driving this EX30 is the visibility. As I mentioned earlier, you don't have the driver display or screen in front of you. You just have the sound bar kind of by the windshield. And what it does is it sort of opens up this expanse. You have a great view of the road. I like that. This A-pillar seems kind of thin in a good way. So yeah, you can see out of this car in a way that you really can't in many cars today. They're just sort of getting more compact. And this is a small car, so I like that. When you go off the side, this B-pillar starts to get a little thick, and out the back, it's fine, not game-changing. But again, out the front, really loving that. All right, folks, there you have it, our review of the first ever Volvo EX30 all-electric crossover. Pros, well, we love the acceleration. This thing is a pocket rocket. It's a blast to drive, but it's also super serene on the freeway, very quiet, very comfortable, even for an EV. And finally, the styling. I love the compact proportions and the styling of it overall. It's a great looking vehicle inside and out. But then there are the cons, and it's a longer list there. For one, this just doesn't have the real-world range that we would expect out of an EV that costs up to $48,000. 200 miles in the real world just isn't enough these days. It's also very small, as we showed you. This is not a vehicle you're gonna want if you're gonna be putting adults in the rear seats or if cargo is important to you. There are just better competitors at the same price point in the all-electric category. And then finally, perhaps the biggest issue we had with this car overall is the screen setup. It just makes very simple functions way too complicated, and that can get into safety issues. So for all of those reasons, we just can't recommend the EX30. There are just better competitors with either more space, more range, or a lower price point, and they don't have those issues with screens. Yes, Volvo may be able to update it with some over-the-air updates over time, but as it stands today, there are just too many flaws with this EX30. So for reviews or listings of this Volvo or anything else you're shopping for, new or used, be sure to check out CarGurus.com. And CarGurus now has a podcast called The Driveway, giving you great buyer's tips if you're in the market today. Be sure to check that out wherever you find your other podcasts. And finally, before you go, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you can get alerts on all of our future updates. We'll see you out there.